We on Fire Sports Podcast, the spot, season number 4, episode number 62. And woo, man, what's up, good people? We finally here at the weekend, the first day of summer. To quote the great philosopher Chuck D from Public Enemy, goddamn, it's another summer. Man, first and foremost, man, I hope you guys have had a great productive week as we mosey on into the weekend, man, in the month of June. Once again, man, it's the first day of summer officially. You know, I know it's been raining all over certain parts of the United States, but man, the heat is coming. The heat is definitely coming. And I hope you guys also, too, have a productive summer as well. And boy, there's a lot of things jumping off across the sporting landscape. And once again, if it's your first time listening, man, we on Fire Sports Podcast, the spot. We provide hot fire takes and analysis across the sporting landscape. And if you're an OG of the show, I appreciate the check-in, man. I appreciate the good look as we spin the block. And you know, I got to get into these NBA Finals as the Indiana Pacers stave off elimination in game number 6 up in Indianapolis, as they was able to knock off the Oklahoma City Thunder 108-91. I mean, the game really wasn't that close, as the Oklahoma City Thunder pulled their starters in the fourth quarter. They knew what time it was, man, and we got a classic Game 7. The two best words in sports, Game 7. And a lot of people didn't think that we'll get here to Game 7 of the NBA Finals in this series. A lot of people thought going in, man, the Oklahoma City Thunder, well favored, 68-win ball club, got the reigning MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you know, another all-star, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren. And we all thought that if you was an Oklahoma City fan, if you was the betting public, just looking at the betting odds on it, Oklahoma City was a big-time favorite in this series. A lot of people thought it was going to be a gentleman's sweep in 5 games. Yours truly, I thought this was a 6-game series for Oklahoma City. You know, I put it out there, man, before the series. And I said that with all due respect to the Indiana Pacers, because this team, man, is just not going nowhere, man. I mean, they the basketball equivalent to Rocky Balboa, man. When you think they beat up, when you think they just out on their feet, they just bounce back up, and they've been bouncing back up all playoffs long, as they've earned themselves a first and one only shot in a Game 7 to win an NBA championship. It'd be the first NBA championship in Pacers history. Those who know the history of the NBA, even some of my super OGs going back, as the Indiana Pacers was one of the ABA teams that came over in the ABA-NBA merger. You know, we've had a team, or a couple teams actually, win an NBA championship from the ABA, most notably the San Antonio Spurs. You know, got 5 of them things, man. They've won 5 NBA championships. We got the Denver Nuggets, a former ABA team, winning an NBA championship a couple years ago. And we got the Indiana Pacers now on deck. And most people feel that at this point, if you ain't put some respect on their name, man, you better put some respect on their name now. Tyrese Halliburton coming into the game number 6. I knew he was going to play. I had no question about that. I knew he was going to play. But I didn't know he was going to be this effective in game number 6, looking like a new man. Started off a little shaky in the first couple minutes of the game. Hit him a 3, and then it just unlocked him. And for the Oklahoma City Thunder, this is a ball club, the youngest team to get to an NBA Finals since the 1977 Portland Trail Blazers, with the late great Bill Walton and company. You know, Blazer fans are still, you know, basking in the glow of just that great team. And you saw the youth. You saw the youth in game number 6. You saw the Oklahoma City Thunder press, you know, and I was telling my peoples watching the game, I said that youth in sports is a gift and a curse. Sometimes you just young and just ignorant and don't understand just the big stage that you own. And the curse is that You understand the stage that you on and understand that you one victory away, man, for your lifetime dreams as an NBA player, as a just in sports overall, man, to win a championship, which you live in infamy when you win an NBA championship or any championship in any sport. And we saw with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he definitely was pressing early in the game, never really got a solid footing. And this team fell on the guillotine, man, in Indiana. And so you know I'm going to break down Game 7 of the NBA Finals. And this is the 20th time we've had a Game 7 in the NBA Finals. And you know I got a Big Five coming, man. To my OGs, man, Big Five. These are my power rankings, man, over various subjects, man. I've been hitting y'all with SOSA all season long with my Big Five. And I got another Big Five coming down the pipeline. And this Big Five, man, is, you already know what it is. This Big Five is my Big Five Game 7s in NBA history. Just over my 40 plus years of watching the National Basketball Association, I've seen some classic Game 7s over the years. And here we go with it again. And so I'm going to definitely get into that, man, coming up later on in the show. Obviously, I'm going to get into who I think will win Game 7 of the NBA Finals and just my breakdown of what we've seen so far and what we may see in Game 7 in Oklahoma City on Sunday night on ABC. Also, speaking of the NBA, we got the NBA draft, man. The NBA draft is jumping off a week after the NBA Finals, or basically a half a week now. Next Wednesday, got round number 1 in prime time of the NBA draft. And there's been a lot of talk, not with who will be the first pick in the NBA draft. We all know who that is, man. We all know it's going to be Cooper Flag going to the Dallas Mavericks first overall. You know, Dallas Mavericks just straight hit a lick. Just with that, with the ping pong balls, man, I know Nico Harrison and just the brain trust down there in Dallas is still celebrating just that triumphant, move that they did to be able to get that number 1 pick by luck of the lottery balls. But all the hoopla across the NBA draft over the last, say, 24 to 48 hours has been about Ace Bailey. And for those who don't know who Ace Bailey is, those who don't follow college basketball like that, it's ironic for me because I'm doing a podcast, man, down in the Atlanta area, man, in Atlanta, Georgia. And I've had the opportunity to watch Ace Bailey play basketball, man, since he's been 16 years old. So I have some good insight on this young man, this gentleman. Watched him, like I said, man, since 16, just putting in work, down here in the high school ranks in Georgia. And I knew he was going to be an NBA player, man. I mean, he just was dominant and cold like that in high school. I already knew what time it was. And it was ironic for me, man, for him to go up to Rutgers. Also went up there with Dylan Harper, the son of my main man, Ron Harper, man, formerly of the Chicago Bulls and Cleveland Cavaliers, also too, the Los Angeles Lakers. Looks like he's going to be unanimously the second pick in the draft. And the reason why Ace Bailey is poignant is due to the fact that he hasn't worked out or even interviewed with no teams, with not one team. Now, there's been a lot of people that says that, hey, he feels like, he's a guaranteed top 3 pick in the NBA draft. And it's a situation where for me, man, I just think that this whole hoopla about it, and these athletes are a little bit different nowadays, man. Meaning that at first I was going to just, get on my soapbox. But I had to take a step back a little bit. And the reason I had to take a step back was simply based on the fact is that I don't know if there's an NBA team in the top 3 that has guaranteed that they're going to pick them. Now, you might as well cross off number 1 and cross off number 2, because I think Harper's going to go second and Cooper Flag is going to go number 1. So you got the Philadelphia 76ers sitting in the 3rd spot. You got the San Antonio Spurs, man. They in the top 5. You got the Charlotte Hornets, lurking around as well. And so I'm not sure if any one of these teams have guaranteed that they're going to draft this guy. But what I'm hearing from his agent and from his peoples is that he feels he's a top 3 pick. And he feels like he don't need to work out or talk to teams. Now, to me, that's a big time mistake. Meaning that I'm down with, hey, potentially just depending on the athlete, hey, I may not have to work out. Guy like Cooper Flagg, more than likely, Cooper Flagg don't have to work out for the Dallas Mavericks. But I do believe at the end of the day, it's just a gentleman's courtesy to sit down and have a conversation with these teams, due to the fact of you get a good look into the inner workings of these teams and what they're going to do with you when they get you. I mean, it's no different than sitting down and having lunch with somebody, basically. Go to their facility, you get a chance to kick it with them a little bit and understand what they got cracking and what they got going on. There's nothing wrong with that. And you don't even have to lift a muscle as far as a workout. That's why I went left with Ace Bailey and his representation. It's like, dude, at the end of the day, you just don't want your client to go in a situation blindly. And like I said, we're not privy to whether or not he's actually had conversations, on the low with teams who's already given him a guarantee. But I just thought that this was a little left field for me. And a lot of people, feel that it's a diva mentality. And when NIL came into the deal with college sports, college basketball, college football, and all, college sports that, generate revenue that got NIL deals, that door swung wide open. I mean, how could you not tell a youngin not to be kind of a diva to a certain extent when most of us who went to college was eating noodles, was grinding, you had them young care packages. That's not the case no more. I mean, these dudes sitting on a bag. Some of these young women as well in collegiate sports, they sitting on a bag. We all heard about what happened with Carson Beck, man, getting his Lamborghini stolen, man, about a month or so ago. Carson Beck, formerly the quarterback of the Georgia Bulldogs, transferred to the Miami Hurricanes, got a cool $4 million for the transfer, and got his Lamborghini stolen. And so, yeah, these athletes now, yeah, they divas. Let's just go ahead and call it what you call it. Now, that's not a knock as far as say whether or not they're going to bring their special talents to the table, or whether or not they're going to come with that supreme work ethic. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is that they well positioned financially with generational type of money if they invested right before they even hit an athletic field or hit a court. And so to me, it's just one of those situations where, man, I wish the best, obviously, for Ace Bailey. I'm a fan of Ace Bailey. Like I said, I've been watching him hoop since he was 16 years old. I probably have better insight on him probably than most who speaking on Ace Bailey right now. Real talk. Got an opportunity to watch him play in person in high school. So for me, it's a situation where, man, I just thought that was interesting. So, that's my little tidbit about that, man. And, we're going to get into, as I mentioned, the NBA Finals momentarily. But before we switch gears in that, also, too, on the show, man, we got a long-time reunion from a player that was a special player. A player that had a special season. And those who love baseball like I love baseball all know about the summer of 98. Summer of 98, we had the home run chase, man, with Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. And I've seen Sammy Sosa come back to Wrigley Field for the first time in 20 plus years. And me being a diehard Cubs fan, I'm going to get into that. I got that coming up down the pipeline. And also, we're going to get into a little boxing, man. It's been a minute since we got into a little boxing. We got the huge mega fight coming up in September, a couple months from now, with my man Bud, man. Terrence Crawford, man. 41-0. To me, pound for pound, the best fighter in the sport. Taking on Canelo Alvarez. And that's going to be a super fight, man. I can't wait to see that. I'm going to get into that a little bit, man, because I seen them, kind of do a little bit of promotion in regards of it. Also, too, I believe that fight is going to be in Saudi Arabia, man. And so, it's just definitely going to be just up when that thing jump off. So I'm going to get into that a little bit, man. Just my tidbits and just kind of my early insights on that whole situation, man. So first and foremost, man, I appreciate you guys checking in, man. Coming up, I got my breakdown of the NBA Finals Game 6 as we move towards Game 7 coming up on Sunday. First and foremost, I appreciate all the love and the feedback. I appreciate your ear. We on Fire Sports Podcast. hot. Welcome back. And we had a triumphant victory, man, last night, man. Indiana Pacers winning game 6, 108-91. And coming in to game 6, last episode, man, I thought the Oklahoma City Thunder, man, I thought that they would close the door on the Indiana Pacers in game 6. More so than I'm going to keep it 100, man, is that, one, I predicted Oklahoma City to win the series in 6 games before the series began. I just thought that, at the end of the day, I just thought that them being a juggernaut as far as defense is concerned, the number one defensive team all season long. I just thought that at the end of the day, as the series go along a little bit, I thought that their defense, especially with the adjustments and them with the opportunity to look at, the Pacers through 6 games, I thought they was going to close the door in game number 6. And boy, was I wrong. And for me, it wasn't a situation of me being disrespectful to the Indiana Pacers, because I knew the Indiana Pacers had that work. I knew they was going to be a tough out, especially playing at the crib. Game 6 for a team trying to close them out on a road game, man, is a tough situation. And those who remember, when the finals was the 2-3-2 format, that thing changed, maybe about, I think now it's a little bit over 10 plus years now it has changed, went from, 2-3-2 back to, 2-2-1-1-1. And I thought, for me, it's an advantage for a home team, man, down 3-2 to play that game in they building. You get an opportunity, especially too, it's a guaranteed last home game of the season for your fan base, regardless of what the result would be in game 7. Obviously, you got to swing and go back on the road. I knew the fans was going to be up. I knew they was going to be on one. And, the Pacers have a great fan base. The whole state of Indiana, man, just with their rich tradition through the high school ranks. And obviously, you got, Indiana University. You got, Purdue University. You got Butler University in Indiana. And so they've had, shout out to Ball State in Indiana, man. They got some good programs in the state of Indiana. Me growing up next door in Illinois, man, I know about it. I know about it. You know what I mean? So I knew that they was going to be up, but I thought that the Oklahoma City Thunder would come out in this game, try to get the lead early in the game, man, and try to hold off the Indiana Pacers. And we saw that a little bit in the first 5 minutes of the game. We saw, the Thunder come out, especially Jalen Williams come out, be aggressive, get Oklahoma in a position to where they was kind of, trying to roll a little bit. But it was one missing piece to that, one missing link to that, what I saw early in the game. And that was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I was watching him with an eagle eye. I was watching him as well as Tyrese Halliburton with an eagle eye. One for Halliburton because he was hampered coming into the game. Had a calf injury, and those who know about calf injuries, yours truly, I had to, blow out my Achilles. Been there, done that. Now, I knew it was going to be a tricky situation for him. And for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I thought in game 6, this was where you show who the MVP is. If you're the best player in the league this season, this was your time to show it. This was the move. And for me, he looked like he was a little shook, daddy. He looked like he was a little shook. I'm going to keep it 100. I thought that, the moment was a little big for him. And I'm not going to, kill him, because the moment is big for a lot of dudes. Especially when you know that your lifetime dream is right before you. And they came out. They was looking real good. And then Indiana hit those threes. And the whole swag of the game kind of changed. The whole dynamic of the game kind of changed. And then we saw, with the crowd, just being hyped up, and on the back end of them hitting them threes, they was able to bring in the bench. And to me, the bench, ladies and gentlemen, won the game. When you bring Obi Toppin off the bench, who hit some huge threes, man, this man got that three on a string. He wasn't shooting the rock like that when he's with the New York Knicks. He wasn't shooting the rock like that when I saw him at the University of Dayton. He wasn't shooting that thing like that. but he's shooting it now. And we got to put some respect on who I'm calling, man, boy wonder, man. TJ McConnell, man, his boy wonder, man. With him and Obi Toppin coming into the game, they changed the whole dynamic of the game. And we can see, I know from my perspective, that Oklahoma City was on shaky ground. It was the equivalent of a boxing match, and they got hit with a counter punch, and they was unable to bounce back from it. And to me, I thought that, the key for Oklahoma City in game number 6 was really 3 main things. Main thing 1 was you can't turn the ball over. You cannot turn the ball over on the road in a closeout game. You got to be strong with the basketball. That's 1. 2, I felt that you had to hold Tyrese Halliburton under double figures. If this guy's hampered up, if this guy can't go east and west, if this guy can't go around nobody, you can't allow him to have double figures in the game. I thought that was paramount. And the third thing, you couldn't let them out rebound you. And they struck out on all 3 key things, and that's why we're transitioning to game 7 on Sunday night. Now, another interesting point, which nobody's really kind of gotten into it a little bit. Chet Holmgren had 4 points. 2 of 9. I'm not sure who played worse. Chet Holmgren for the Oklahoma City Thunder or Miles Turner for the Indiana Pacers. And I said that to me that those 2 guys were kind of like the dudes who can swing a series for either respective teams. Meaning that whoever wins that matchup, more than likely the team probably got a good footing in winning the game. And they both laid an egg, especially Chet Holmgren. I mean, he was on straight weak body mode. Now, earlier in the series, we saw him putting the ball on the deck and being able to get around Miles Turner and get to where he wanted to get to, at the rim. And, he scored early. I think he scored, the first one or 2 baskets of the game? And he was on a milk carton ever since. I mean, no aggression. To the point to where he looking for the ref for a foul. And I'm like, dude, you a stick man, fam. They not calling that. You might as well run back, fam. So he laid an egg. I mean, if you look between Jalen Williams, who had 16 points, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander ended up with 21, which it didn't even look like he had 21. Jalen Williams scored that the other day by himself. So, when your main 2 guys, and like I said, when you look at the box score, especially for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, obviously the guy averaging 30 a pop, 21 is a low-scoring game for him. But it didn't even look like the 21 that he scored really was relevant. It wasn't relevant. And to me, the most damning thing from the whole situation was the turnovers. He had 8 of them. And since he's been in the league, I couldn't tell you a game where I seen Shai Gilgeous-Alexander turn the ball over 8 times. Never seen that before. I mean, he was a -17. Jalen Williams was a -40. And the funny part about it was they both shot right at about 50% from the field. They just couldn't get enough shots up simply based on the fact that their defense was hot ass garbage. It was the worst defensive performance I've seen from Oklahoma City all season long, and at the wrong time for it. Now, conversely to the Indiana Pacers, as I mentioned, TJ McConnell, man, bringing you that heat once again off the bench. But the funny part about it, Obi Toppin led the team in scoring with a dub off the bench. Siakam only had 16 points. Nembhard, who played well, and I put some respect on Nembhard's name because offensively, he been straight trash really the last 2.5 games for him. Now, obviously, he's more of a benefactor from the defensive standpoint. That's what you want him to do. He played outstanding against his, Canadian, counterpart, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander early in the series. But his offense had fell asleep. And for him, to go 5 for 7, 3 for 5 for 3, that's exactly what you want out of Nembhard. So I thought he played a great game. I mean, he was plus 19. Halliburton, plus 25. He obviously had 14 points. But them threes that he hit, they was huge. Huge for one, his confidence, and huge for the rest of the team confidence. And so, to me now, transitioning back to Oklahoma City, this thing up for grabs. This thing is up for grabs. Now, I will say this. Last couple times, man, we've seen a Game 7 in the NBA Finals. And normally Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and obviously I got my Big 5 coming down the pipeline very shortly of Game 7s and epic Game 7 moments. But more notably, the home team usually win Game 7. And we've seen a couple blowouts in Game 7. We've seen, teams kind of play through 3 quarters, kind of lock. And then the 4th quarter, man, that's when the home team just kind of separate themselves. And we've seen 20 of these in NBA history. Like I've said, I've seen a few. Not all 20, but more than half of them Game 7s. And Oklahoma City, to me, they got the advantage. Obviously playing at home. And to me, if you're going to play your worst game of the season, as long as it wasn't an elimination game, it's all to the good. Now, we've seen remnants of this in the Denver series. The Denver series is played out just like this. Denver won the game in that series with a buzzer beater by Aaron Gordon, the walk-off dunk. We've seen Oklahoma City go down 2 games to 1 to Denver. We've seen Oklahoma City drop Game 6 to Denver on the road. And then they came back in Game 7 and just straight DDT to Denver Nuggets and got them up out of there. So, we might see this again in Game 7. But I believe that this thing is going to go down at least to the 4th quarter. But I got the Oklahoma City Thunder knocking off the Indiana Pacers in Game 7. In an epic Game 7. I just think that the Oklahoma City Thunder make just enough defensive plays, especially in the 4th quarter of this game, to win an NBA championship. Be the first NBA championship in franchise history. I know, my historian buffs want to, kind of tie in the Seattle Supersonics to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm not going there. They're their own entity. Even though they share record books right now, they're their own entity. And so I got Oklahoma City winning this Game 7, like I said, man, in a close drag-out type of situation. But I think that they've been holding their hat on the defensive end all season long. And I think it happens again. It gets them out of a jam against a rugged, not going Indiana Pacers. So we'll see what it do, man. Hopefully, man, by Sunday, hopefully my prediction may be true, but I may not be surprised if the Indiana Pacers, man, come out on top, man, and win an NBA championship. Definitely be, to me, the most surprising NBA champion, man, I've probably ever seen since covering the 40 years of the sport. So we'll see what it do. But coming up, I got my Big 5, man. I got my Big 5 epic Game 7, games and performances that I've seen over the last 40 plus years, man, across the NBA landscape. We on Fire Sports Podcast, the spot. Man, all right, before we get out of here, man, don't forget to check your boy out, man, on Facebook at We on Fire Sports Podcast. Also, too, on Twitter at We on Fire Sports. Also, too, don't forget to check your boy out where all podcasts can be listened to, man, especially Podbean and, like I said, all the other podcast ventures we got out here where you can listen to podcasts as well. As I mentioned, man, it's the first day of summer, man. It's always exciting, man, when we got the first day of summer jumping off, man. So I hope, first and foremost, man, you guys have a safe weekend. And we're going to get into my Big 5. Yeah, my Big 5. I got my Big 5 NBA Finals Game 7s. And these represent, going back, 40 years, man, of me watching the NBA, man, enjoying the NBA, man, starting off with being a young kid, man, sitting down in the floor model television, man, watching the NBA Finals with my pops and also, too, uncles and other, friends and loved ones, man, and just kind of soaking in the NBA at the time. And so we gonna get right into this thing, man. I ain't even gonna hold you, man. We got number 5. Number 5 is the 2016 NBA Finals. And those who don't know, I just got one word. Cleveland! LeBron James, Cleveland Cavaliers, coming back from 3 games to 1 down to the Golden State Warriors. Game 7, man, it was a classic game. I mean, it was a crazy series. We all know, Draymond Green, man, getting suspended, being, out of the game, changed the whole momentum of the game. A lot of people don't get into also, too, man, the Game 5 that Kyrie Irving and LeBron James had, man. I think both of them dropped 40. Kyrie Irving, man, that was some of the best ball I ever seen from a man since, his tenure in the NBA. Got, Cleveland off the ropes. They basically was on life support. That got them up the road a little bit. They was able to get themselves into a Game 7. We all know, the infamous block by LeBron James in Game 7 over Andre Iguodala. And just an epic game. And, the crazy part about that Game 7, man, a lot of people forget is there was some ugly basketball, man, the last 4 minutes of that game. It was just back and forth, just, everybody broke. Cleveland was broke. The Golden State was broke. Everybody was broke. And then Kyrie Irving just went into the bag. I mean, he hit the 3 over Steph Curry. It's the biggest shot in Cleveland Cavaliers history. They was able to pull that thing out, man. The Cleveland Cavaliers winning their first NBA championship. It was the first sports championship, man, since the 1960s, going all the way back to Jim Brown, the late, great Jim Brown and the Cleveland Browns. Huge come up, man, for the whole city of Cleveland, man. I got 2016, man, coming in at number 5, Game 7. At number 4. This one involves LeBron James as well. I got the 2013 NBA Finals, man, between the Miami Heat and the San Antonio Spurs. We all know the classic Game 6 that led into Game 7. The infamous shot off the corner by Ray Allen. The San Antonio Spurs, man, they was literally 22 seconds away from winning an NBA championship. I'll never forget seeing Kawhi Leonard, man, go to the free throw line, man, Mr. Free Throw. I'll never forget, man, them panning the cameras over to the sideline. Because a lot of people forget Tracy McGrady was on the San Antonio Spurs. He wasn't, at the height of his powers. But I remember looking over there and seeing T-Mac, and I said, boy, man, finally you win an NBA championship. And soon as that thought crossed my mind, it went left. And Ray Allen, obviously hit the big-time 3. And then we got into Game 7. And Game 7 was an epic game. It was a duel, back and forth. But put some respect on LeBron James' name, man. He was outstanding in Game 7, man. Especially from, behind the 3. Made some big-time shots in the fourth quarter of Game number 7, man. And just the championship, belonged to the Miami Heat. They got off the mat. And, won an NBA championship coming back from down 3 games to 2. So I got the 2013 NBA Finals, man, at number 4. At number 3, man, we're going to take this thing back a little bit, man. We're going to take this thing back to the 90s. 1994 NBA Finals, man. This NBA Finals was epic for several reasons. You had the Houston Rockets, a team that, was behind the 8 ball in the Western Conference for years. Finally got themselves back to the NBA Finals with Hakeem Olajuwon. You had the New York Knicks. My man, Patrick Ewing, Pat Riley, John Starks, Charles Oakley. And it was a back and forth series. This was the year that Michael Jordan retired from basketball. So it definitely was, the popularity of the league had went down a little bit, being, around the corner, in the neck of the woods, man, at the time, man, from the Chicago Stadium and, the headquarters of the Bulls, we were still sick over Mike's retirement. And, this NBA Finals was just kind of a new wave. We didn't know at the time that Jordan was going to come back to play basketball. So it was great to see a Game 7, man, for 2 organizations and 2 teams who was trying to get it. And this series is most infamously known for the OJ chase down the 405. I mean, he preempted the NBA Finals on NBC. I'll never forget Bob Costas, man, and them kind of, coming with the double box, One box was, the NBA Finals. The other box was AC and OJ riding down the 405, man, and people chasing behind them, man. That was crazy. But Game 7, man, it was an epic game, man. Houston, and when they was able to pull it off, just shout out, man, to Kenny Jet Smith, obviously, as we all know, my man Sammy Cassell, Robert Horry. And it was just an epic time, man. Elijah Wan's first NBA championship, man. And I'll never forget, man, when he won the championship, just him looking around, man, just couldn't believe what had just happened. We all know about, John Starks being broke as hell in game number 6. But the Knicks, they had a real opportunity. They was up 3-2 in that series. But the Rockets was able to hold forth, man, in an epic game number 7, man, played down in Houston. I'm talking about Houston. So it was a crazy game, man. But I got 94 NBA Finals game 7 coming in at number 3. At number 2, we're going to take this thing back as well, man. This time we're going to go back into the 1980s, man. And I got the 1988 NBA Finals, man, coming in at number 2, game number 7. And this NBA Finals was between the Los Angeles Lakers, obviously, and the Detroit Pistons, bad boy Pistons. Pistons had finally made it to an NBA Finals, man, after, finally knocking off the Boston Celtics on their way to the NBA Finals. We all know about the epic Game 6 from Isaiah Thomas, man. Just one going. This was another series where Detroit, they was up 3-2 on the Lakers. And the Lakers, they was trying to be the first team to repeat for the first time, man, in 19 years at that time. It was just kind of a cultural war between, the bad boy style and, just the, Showtime Lakers style. And Game 7 coming into Game 7, Isaiah Thomas, man, I'll never forget seeing him pregame, man, just on the crutches with the Raiders t-shirt on. I'm just like, man, I don't know, Zeke. And he was hampered in game number 7. Just wasn't himself for obvious reasons. And the Los Angeles Lakers was able to win in Game 7. And you know I can't talk about Game 7 of the 88 NBA Finals without talking about my man, Big Game James Worthy. Throwing up 36-point triple-double, man, in Game number 7. He won the NBA Finals MVP. I think for him, man, it was finally him kind of coming out of the shell. I mean, we talking about the Lakers here. We talking about Magic Johnson. We talking about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And so this was really the opportunity for James Worthy, man, just to stand out front and show just the Hall of Fame guy that he was, man. So shout out, man, to Big Game James. I got the 1988 NBA Finals, man, coming in Game 7 at number 2 because it was a classic game, too. I mean, it came down to the last couple seconds. We all know, just about, just the whole swag with the Detroit Pistons. Even with Isaiah being hurt, they got off the mat. They was down actually in Game 7, man, and made a nice little run towards the end of Game 7, and they got real thick, man. And yeah, Lakers fans was definitely worried, but I got the 88 Finals, man, coming in at number 2, Game 7. Game 1, man. I'm sorry, number 1 on my Big 5 before we go ahead and close it out. This Game 7 for me, man, and we're going to keep it 80s. This was the first NBA Finals that I can recall seeing. I still was trying to kind of, get kind of glued into just the nuances of the NBA game, man. Obviously, you had just huge stars across the league, Magic Johnsons and Dr. J's and Bernard Kings and Isaiah Thomases and Larry Birds and Moses Malones. And, I can just go on and on. But the 84 NBA Finals was about bunks. Yeah, I'm talking about hardcore nutso. Do you see me now? Nutso bunks. Because the 84 Finals represented the first time we had Magic Johnson and Larry Bird match up against each other in the NBA Finals. That thing went to a classic Game 7, which everybody knew it was going 7 games. Everybody and their mama knew it was going 7 games. And the Boston Celtics, at the time, man, had home court advantage. Game 7 was in Boston. The Lakers at that point had never beat the Boston Celtics in Boston. Had never lost a championship in Boston. So it was tough sledding. And like I said, me being a little guy, man, I was still trying to kind of figure out the game. But one thing I will tell you is that the OGs was locked in. Was straight locked in. I knew it was a big time game. And, man, to see Boston, man, win Game 7 and for the fans to storm the Boston court after Game 7, that's when I truly fell in love with the NBA. And it wasn't from the standpoint of I was a Boston Celtic fan. It let me know what time it was, what a diehard fan and just the passion of winning a championship was all about. And it unlocked, for me, my love with the NBA, man, all the way into this day, man. So I gotta have that moment, Game 7 of the 1984 NBA Finals, man, in my lexicon on my big 5 sitting right at the top. So, man, we're going to get out of here, man. I'm not going to hold you, man. I hope you guys have a great weekend, man. I hope you guys are able to sit back and watch game number 7, man, between the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder coming up. Also, too, we got baseball jumping off, man. A bunch of weekend series as well across the sporting landscape. First and foremost, man, I appreciate all the love and the feedback. I appreciate your ear. We on Fire Sports Podcast. The spot.